Welcome to FCPS All-Stars. We have with us today Carol Vogler, language arts teacher at Brunswick Middle School. Thank you for joining us, Carol.
Thank you for having me today. This is an honor.
It's an honor to have you because I understand that you've been teaching for just a little while.
41 years to be exact.
What would your students say is special about you?
Oh, I would hope they would say that I made learning fun. That was one of my goals. I was known kind of as the singing teacher because we used to sing everything when I taught in elementary school, where I taught 34 years. And I also try to put a lot of my own self, my travels, which I love to travel, and things like that into my teaching.
If I say the number 50, what does that mean to you?
That means 50 states of the United States, which was a big goal that I had to hit all 50, and I have reached that goal.
What was the last state that made the big 50?
Vermont, which is kind of unusual. One would think it would be Hawaii or Alaska, you know, one of the distant states.
Yes.
But I had made a trip to New England years ago, way before I ever set the goal. And at the time, I just simply went up the coast. And so Vermont was just a little bit too far west, so I didn't go there. And then as I kept traveling, North Dakota was the other one that I hadn't hit besides Vermont. And so in the meantime, I became friends with a family in Vermont, and they kept inviting us up. So we said, we're coming, we're coming. And they said, save it to the last because it is the best. So I spent the 4th of July 2 years ago there, and it truly was a great state.
In addition to traveling in the United States, I understand that you've had a little travel abroad.
Indeed, I have. Being a teacher, one of the only ways that I could travel was to get a job and teach overseas.
Smart.
So right after I started teaching, I applied to teach in England, and it was with the Fulbright Hayes exchange program.
Oh.
And I guess it was my 5th year of teaching that I went abroad. And I spent the year teaching in England, and I literally traded lives with my exchange partner. We traded, she lived in my apartment, I lived in her flat, and we traded schools, friends, everything.
That sounds like a movie I've seen not too long ago. What was the most challenging part about learning to live in England?
Well, I was 25 years old at the time. You know, all my life I'd had a telephone, and most of my life I had had a car, at least since 16, access to a car. So the hardest part was my exchange partner had neither. Her flat was within walking distance of the school, and I truly thought I could survive the year without having it. And I made it till after Christmas before I broke. Finally, I at least had to get a car. So that was an experience in itself.
What kind of car did you buy at age 25?
Well, I am a poor school teacher and was at that point as well. So I wanted to get a used car. And in England at that time, there were no automatic cars. First of all, there were a few, I shouldn't say there were none, but nothing used.
Really?
Yes. So I had to buy a stick shift car. But all my English friends drove them, and they're like, oh, no problem, you know, we can teach you to drive it. Little did they know that I was going to buy it one day and want to drive to Windsor Castle the next day. Well, I'll explain that in a minute, but I bought this Morse Minor, which was an old car, kind of like our old Woodies, the ones with the wooden panels on the side. It looks like a little van almost. And you have to consider, I would be sitting over here with the gear shift here because they drive on the opposite side of the road. So my friend took me out for driving lessons that night, and we drove for probably an hour, another hour. Finally, by about the 3rd hour, she's like, I think you're ready to do this, because I was still going into a lot of traffic the next day, determined to do it. Until I woke up and it snowed the next morning.
Oh my.
Now, I grew up in the mountains of West Virginia, so snow really isn't a major problem, except the English drivers really couldn't drive, and I continuously had to stop. And when one drives a stick shift car and not used to it, they stall. So I continued to stall and stall. I was probably within about 10 minutes of Windsor Castle, and this time when it stalled, it wouldn't start again. So I get out, and of course I'm dressed. I'm going to a tour of Windsor Castle because the Queen wasn't in residence, and they were even showing us the part where she lived in. It was a special tour they had set up. So as I start to open the bonnet, or excuse me, the bonnet of the car, not the hood, it's called the bonnet, somebody stopped to help me, and I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And there's a handle inside. I had no idea. He takes it out, he turns it in, cranks it, car starts. So I get back in my car, go on. Fortunately, I didn't stall, and took the car immediately back to the person I bought it from, which was just a minor adjustment. But it was an experience, I will tell you.
It sounds like a definite experience.
But after that, I could drive that stick shift anywhere.
Did you actually ever get to meet the Queen?
Yes, later in the spring, they had another event where it was a garden party where they invited all the exchanges to come and meet the Queen. And that was another real experience because first of all, you had to dress with hat and gloves. And the Queen actually made her entrance, even though it was a garden party, it was still indoors, down an elegant staircase. And I mean, she looked lovely coming down, just so proper. And then we all were introduced to her and we shook her hands. We didn't have to curtsy.
Oh,
shook her hands, and you know, she said a few minor words. I couldn't tell you, I was nervous at the time what they were, but it was a wonderful experience.
What was she like?
Not very tall. I, needless to say, towered over her, but just so stately and just a very proper lady.
Once you returned to the U.S., and it seemed to me I recall you had another adventure about 2 years later.
Indeed, I did. In that 2 years, I met my husband, who had also traveled abroad during the same time that I was overseas. He was there in the summer. We both wanted to travel more, and we were both teachers, so we applied with the Department of Defense. And I was lucky enough to get the job, so we were married. He went as my dependent and was hired overseas. And as we say, we had a 4-year honeymoon in Germany. That was our next trip.
Oh. Did you find that most people spoke English, or did you pick up a lot of German?
We really tried hard to learn German. We took classes through the University of Maryland that were offered over there, and local courses. And we had a host nation teacher that was a German lady that we would go to her house once a week and only speak German. But still, because we lived in a small town, we weren't on the post, we were in the town. Everybody worked on post, and you would ask them something in German and they would answer you in English. But we did well to travel, that wasn't a problem.
Your first child was born there, correct?
Yes, he was. After 2.5 years, we were older when we got married, so we decided, you know, we shouldn't wait any longer, and our son was born there. And then he was there for another 1.5 years when we were there 4 years total. But it was time we decided to come home and have him be raised in a normal family atmosphere.
Okay. Is he considered a United States citizen or a German citizen?
Up until he was 18, he had dual citizenship. Now, he didn't actually suggest, or select it, but I think at this point he is strictly a U.S. citizen. But it was really interesting because he had a German babysitter, and as he developed, I mean, his language was as much German as it was English. Like you would say heiß instead of hot when he got near the stove and things like that. And in high school, interestingly enough, he took German and did seem to pick it up very quickly.
Out of all these adventures you've had, I've been privileged enough to help you on your way to your next adventure, which starts July 1st, 2015. Will you share with our audience what that is?
Yes, retirement. And I am looking forward to it. I am going to miss the kids. I still love teaching, but I want to have time to do more travel. In fact, I don't think I mentioned that another goal might be to hit all 7 continents.
That sounds like it could be a good plan.
So. But I also do need some money, so I do hope to sub to, pay for all the travel.
Once you retire, what's the first thing you plan to do?
Well, both of my children are living in California at the moment, so that's certainly going to be high on the list. Another trip to California just to visit them. And then I would also like to go to Japan. That's another definite one. We had an exchange student that lived with us, and we've met her and her family a couple times. They've come back here, so I would like to go to Japan to visit them. And then just any other trip that comes along. Lots of friends in the United States all over from all of our other travels.
So you'll just be road tripping through eternity, right?
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan.
Absolutely.
Well, Carol, thank you for joining us today and sharing all of your adventures with us. And thank you for joining us as well. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to join us next week and shine on.